Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. The title sponsor of Manny Talks Shooting is Go Fast Don't Suck. So if you need match banners for your match, check them out. They also have an awesome selection of pre-designed and customable jerseys. Don't forget, they are the home of the dry fire decals for your walls, so get those too. They've also got a plethora of patches and stickers that are hilarious and true. You know, Go Fast Don't Suck has a lot of things that you'll need on the range and off, so please check them out at gofastdon'tsuck.net. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, because that's how it has to be. I am not fancy. I don't own a magical mystery tour like Brian Conley, but I've got the power of the internet, a microphone, and an audio processor. So we're great. It's Manny Talks Shooting. Sitting down with me today is a man who done a lot more podcasts than I have. You should know him. If you don't know him, you're going to find out about him. This is Mr. Riley Bowman of ConcealedCarry.com. How you doing, Riley?
I'm great. Thank you. It's an honor to be on.
Well, thank you for accepting my humble invitation, and I feel this is going to be a good one. Two podcasters to each other, and it's okay. You are episode 146. It's kind of cool. I didn't think I'd be here, as you know, as you probably know, and a lot of other people know. Podcasts don't last, like, for the most part. Most people give up. They die, they can't even get to episode 10. Yep. So I'm really happy that I'm at where I'm at, and I finally feel comfortable talking to somebody like you. So
awesome.
But it's all good. So Riley, for people who don't know you, they should know you. Who are you, and how'd you get into shooting?
Well, I am the second in command at ConcealedCarry.com, which has been my full-time job for 8 years now. We try to be the number one place on the internet for concealed carry-related information, education, training, and products. And so we do all those things. We have a training network of instructors that teach classes all over the country, various concealed carry classes, but also other things too. We've got a whole bunch of educational resources on the website. People can find information on concealed carry laws and what to do's and what not to do's, and reciprocity stuff. We have a really nifty reciprocity map builder, for instance, for people that want to find out, hey, I'm traveling to such and such state. Can I carry there? And then we have legal summaries and all that too, so they can kind of familiarize themselves with what to expect when they're visiting that state. We do a lot of product sales. That's where most of our revenue is generated from now. And over the course of the last 6-7 years, we've added quite a bit to the product sales side, including a number of our own brands and our own products as well. So it used to be just we resold other people's stuff, and we still do a lot of that. We've got 700 and some odd, SKUs in the store probably. That's not obviously all ours, but we've got our own brands, which we have a shot timer that some people might know about, and some probably don't. It's a real simple product. It's actually the first Bluetooth capable timer that came to market before all the newcomers. And nothing really about it has changed. It still works pretty well, and we've been working on version 2 for a while, and it's still not quite ready. But it doesn't have an integrated screen on the shot timer. It just connects to your phone and use the free app, and that's your readout for all your times and splits and everything. That was the concept. We wanted to make timers more affordable. It seems like actually over the last couple of years that they've actually gotten more expensive. And they've gotten really cool and they have amazing features, but at the time, we got into range tech shot timers to make it actually more affordable. So they're like $75. Maybe they, excuse me, I think they are $79.99 now. We had to, inflation. It's actually a thing. Some of our components went up in cost, not surprisingly, over the last couple of years. So $80 shot timer that works, and so pretty affordable. And then we've added brands like Mountain Medical for trauma kits and med kits and that kind of stuff, and we've added Barrel Block, which is a dry fire training safety aid. We've got KSG Armory holsters, which is actually the newest brand that we've added, and that's mostly competition holsters. I've made a couple of my own that's mostly concealment holsters. I've built some of my own competition holsters and a couple of custom ones for some friends. Might do more of that down the road, but right now we can barely handle all the business that we have on the concealment holster side. And I know I'm missing some things. There's so much. Yeah, so that's probably some of the big stuff. And then I got into shooting because I actually was shooting a long time. My life. Grew up around guns. But about 12 years or so ago, I became actually a NRA, basic pistol instructor, like a lot of folks do. And kind of one thing led to another thing. And before I knew it, I was working in part-time law enforcement. I became a law enforcement agency instructor, and then I found competition shooting in 2016. Did 3-gun for 3.5 years. And then at the start of 2020, which was an interesting time because, as we all know, and March basically of 2020, COVID came and kind of shut a lot of stuff down. But at the beginning of 2020, I said, this is the year I'm going to do USPSA and focus on USPSA. And that's what I started doing. And so since then, it's all been USPSA. And I'm still very passionate about the concealed carry side of things. Absolutely, that's our business. And I got into competition shooting to make myself a better shooter because I felt like that would probably be a good thing on the concealed carry side as well. But now it's truly become something I enjoy and that I'm passionate about as a hobby. But I try to balance that and keep that in check with self defense and concealed carry. So yeah, there you go. That's kind of the Riley Bowman story. If you have any questions, feel free.
Right, exactly.
If there's anything else you want to know.
Exactly. But if I'm not mistaken, are you born and raised in Colorado, or is that just where you decided to live at?
Born and raised in Idaho, actually.
Idaho. Okay.
Lovely place, lovely state. Wouldn't mind actually getting back to there, especially with the way Colorado is these days, politically speaking, that is. Beautiful place still here in Colorado, but it's just, yeah, anyway. We've been here just over 14 years, which I would have never guessed. Moved here in 2009, the fall of 2009, and actually for a job at the time. Obviously before I got into what I am in now, but yeah. So came out here for a job, and then thought maybe 3, 4, 5 years tops, and here we are, almost a decade and a half later.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't live in the land of potatoes forever. I mean, there's only so much room in Idaho for potatoes. That was a funny enough story. I do have my family does own like a little plot of land out there, and we would go out there every summer and go spend like a month, and it was always great. They live in the flat land, but then you go into the mountains and it was beautiful. I'm like, okay, I can understand why people want to come here and live, but
yeah,
absolutely,
it was a great place to grow up. And my family and my wife and kids were usually there a couple times a year, sometimes for extended periods. We've done it where like one time a few years ago we spent almost a whole month, just back there doing all the things, having during a summer break, having a good time because I don't like a lot of people. I like my space, and honestly, Colorado's getting a little bit overcrowded. So it's nice to go up to a place where it's cooler also in the summer, and there's fewer people. So it's just a lot more relaxed atmosphere, and get to hang with our extended family and grandmas and grandpas and all the cousins, and just have a good time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, when you decided to jump into in 2020, when you decided to jump into USPSA, was it with the red dot, or was it with production with the iron sights, or what was it?
Yeah, it was all carry optics for me from the get go, and I said that was going to be the case for a long time too. I was like, yep, this is the thing. That's what I'm going to do. But I actually shot production nationals in 2022. Kind of on a whim. It was actually originally because it was going to be scheduled in Colorado, if you remember all that, and then it moved to Alabama. And so I was like, nationals in Colorado, like that's in the range where that was going to be was like 3 hours and 10 minutes from my doorstep. So, all right, let's go to nationals. And I think it was originally going to be open, PCC, limited, and production all together. And I was like, well, I'm not an open shooter. I'm not going to do PCC. I could shoot limited, but I don't really have a gun set up for that. So I was like, I'll just pull the optic off and go shoot production. And then when it moved to Alabama, I was like, oh, well, I'll go to Alabama and shoot production nationals still. And so I did. And since then, I would say I spend most of my time in carry optics. But, as there's major matches coming up, like, production nationals or something like that, then I'll switch over to that for, a couple months or something and shoot production.
Right. So at that point, when you decided to jump in to shoot carry optics in 2020, was that your primary carry gun was the red dot, or were you still primarily with irons? Okay.
Yeah, I've been shooting with and carrying a red dot equipped gun since probably I'd have to go back and check the history, but definitely since like beginning of 2018.
Okay.
So probably 6 years now. Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming most people who will come through a Riley Bowman class are shooting red dots at this point.
Yeah, most are. I still get, so like if I have a class of say 12 people, it's pretty common that one, maybe two of them will be shooting irons.
Mhm.
But so that kind of gives you an idea. About 85% or something like that are coming through my classes are using red dots.
Right. And it's just it seems to be probably the norm due to the fact that, manufacturers making more red dot capable pistols off the factory shelves, off the factory lines. It's not so taboo. It's like no one's got to go send their slides all to get milled now. They just come factory.
Yeah, I knew that was. It's funny. Not to like prop myself up too much, but I remember talking to my business partner at a SHOT Show. It was probably like 2017 or thereabouts. So we're at SHOT Show, and I'm just kind of taking in everything that we're observing from the manufacturers, because that was about when you had a couple of them starting to experiment with doing optics ready guns. And I was like, bro, I think 5 years and everybody's going to have, optics on guns basically. And wouldn't even say it took that long. So I think that transition happened super quick. And I do think it was all about, well, one, availability of optics, the quality of the optics. They got to, be reasonably decent quality and last somewhat. Also affordable. And they've, I'd say that there's certainly some affordable options. There's certainly some high end options, but there's some that can kind of please everybody depending on budget. And still, actually, I mean, like take a Holosun for example. They're very affordably priced, I think, and generally work really well. So I mean, that's great. If you don't want to send money to a Chinese company, then there's other options. So like, whatever, knock yourself out. And yeah, so I just kind of was like, dude, I think the time is about. It's just around the corner. We're going to see this just explode. And you certainly have seen that since about 2017. I mean, even just like looking at Carry Optics Nationals participation since 2017, you kind of see like little bit of an uptick year to year, and then from like especially from 2021, 2022, whoof. But like there's a pretty good jump from 20 to 21, and then a huge jump to 2022, and of course last year was absolutely insane as well. So just crazy how fast that has really exploded.
Oh, absolutely. And it's they shouldn't mess with the kind of the golden goose, I think, because, it's going to be, I don't know, with limited optics coming in, numbers might skew a little bit downwards, but still very, very prominent. That's what everyone wants to shoot, which is awesome because, pushes technology. Everyone said for years, competition is what, pushes the market to do their things. If it can survive in a competition, it's probably going to survive on your duty gun. I mean, within it's going to get tested like compensators. Comps used to be, something that was only on competition guns, and then we saw the Roland special, and then, now everyone's putting a comp on everything or porting it. And but this is what it was. This, but 2017 or 2018, probably like the only few options I think, if I can remember right, that was actively readily available is probably like Smith & Wesson and Glock, like with their optics ready platforms, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think it was around that time. It might have been. I'm trying to think when I bought my first 320 that was optics ready. Might have been around that time too, or maybe within the next year. So yeah, I agree. Like Glock had MOS, I think came out maybe 2016 thereabouts. Smith & Wesson definitely was ahead of the curve a little bit there, right? SIG definitely jumped on board pretty early on. Trying to think when Shadow Systems became a thing. 2018 maybe.
Yeah, maybe 2019, maybe.
And they had a really, I mean, I would still say that their approach to their, the way you can, their cut fits so many different optics. Like really, really forward thinking, I think, in that regard. And so, and then next thing you know, everybody's doing the optics ready guns. So. Yep, it's a thing.
Right. So you mentioned SIG. I know until recently you've been a SIG guy. Was that always the case, or did you move from a different platform to the SIG
Yeah.
P320?
So I'll tell you, I was shooting Glocks, which actually was my duty gun when I was still in part-time law enforcement work. And I really quite enjoyed the Glocks just fine. I mean, it's Glock, but I shot them fine and liked them fine. And so, why switch it up, right? And one of the earlier competitions I did was actually a bowling pin shoot. And, I had very, very little competition experience, and I was surprised. I actually got to the final. It was a bracketed event, right? And so I get to the final, and I'm going up against this guy, and I look over at him, and I'm shooting iron sight Glock 17, just completely factory, not even a aftermarket trigger or anything. And I look over at my opponent and see he's got basically a rolling special. I don't remember if he had a comp on it or not, but he definitely had a dot. And he had a light on it and all that, right? And a magwell and a fancy trigger. And it was a tight race. I actually held my own against him really well, but he did edge me out. And so I remember I finished second in that match, and he was first. And we got done, and he's like, I was asking about his gun. Because I'll be honest, at that time, I was aware of such things, but I just hadn't really seen something like that up close, or held it, or even shot one. And so I was like, hey, tell me more about your gun. And he's like, do you want to shoot it? I'm like, sure. And so, what it was actually, I said it was a rolling special, but actually what it was, just in look and appearance, but it was a P320
Okay.
with a RMR on it. I do think it was comped. And then, like I said, it had some kind of aftermarket, P320 trigger. And so he puts it in my hands, and I just go boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, ooh. And I mean, there was a lot going on there. I mean, optic, I was like, oh, that's cool, because I'd had a little limited experience, with a pistol mounted optic, but not a lot at that point. But the other thing that really just wowed me was the P320 in general. I was like, I liked the way that shot. Now, again, it had a comp and all this stuff too, but I was like, there was something about that gun. And so I bought one probably 6 months after that and just started shooting it. And I went through a whole 6 months of, I would shoot the same drills back to back. I'd shoot, with my Glock 17, then I'd shoot it with the 320, and then I'd, back and forth, like Bill drills and Blake drills and other drills, fast, like the fast test, if you're familiar with that one, and just different things, comparing the two guns performance wise. And at the end of a multi-month process, I mean, it was 4 to 6 months, I was like, yeah, my performance is just consistently edging out the Glock on, with 320. And I was like, okay, I mean, the numbers don't lie. Let's make the switch. I mean, which was a big deal to me at the time, because I had so much, I had actually multiple Glocks and all my holsters, and it's just like, oh, here we go. We got to buy all the stuff, right, to support a whole new gun.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I did. So I bought 320 and started shooting it regularly, carrying it. So I think in 2017 was when I really started shooting competitively in 3-gun with an X5, like the OG X5, before the Legion came out, and I just really liked them. I'm trying to remember what year it was. I got brought on board with Team Grey Guns, and so that was the other thing. I mean, you said it well. Hey, you're a Glock, or you were a SIG guy up till recently. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked shooting the gun. I legitimately liked shooting the 320s. I still like shooting the 320s. I really do. But the big thing was getting brought on board with Team Grey Guns, and they've been a wonderful sponsor and very supportive of me. And of course, I mean, I'm gonna rep the brand. I'm gonna shoot the thing, which they're known for the 320. So that's what I did until recently. Yes.
Yeah, and if recently you had a nice little photo shoot, it looked like I saw you shot a match. I don't know if it was maybe a week or two ago, but you were repping your the big H&K on there. So
yeah,
what I know it's probably a little bit with Grey Guns, but what made you switch to the HK platform?
Well, if I'm being fully transparent, they started to woo me a little more than a year ago. They straight up just said, "Hey, can we send you a gun?" Just to try and see what you think. And I was like, okay, sure, why not? Yes, let's do that. What would you like? And I kind of looked at everything, and I'm like, let's go with the with the VP9L. So obviously, the 5-inch VP9. And so they sent it to me, and I, shot it a couple thousand rounds over about a year's time. A little bit less than a year, probably about 10 months, full evaluation time wise, before we started talking sponsorship, because that all started happening last fall. I gave them feedback. They wanted feedback, and I said exactly what I thought, which was mostly positive. And there were some things I was like, it'd be nice if this or that. And they're like, yeah, we get that, we hear you. So, and that would be true if like I'm going to give honest feedback no matter who you are or what you give me. I have feedback about 320s that I don't like.
Right.
A lot of people do, yeah. So last fall, they're like, "Hey, so what do you think? You want to do something here?" And I said, "Sure. I mean, if we can all come to an agreement on things, then yeah, we can definitely explore that as a potential." But I'll tell you, the first thing I did is I called Bruce Gray at Gray Guns, because again, he's been very supportive of me, and I know that Bruce has for years done work on HK pistols, and even has for quite some time had aftermarket triggers and things for especially more of their double action or DASA guns, and not as much for the VP9s. I called Bruce and, hey man, what do you think? HK sponsorship? I'd love to keep working with you guys as well. And he said, man, that's fantastic. Actually, we've been kind of eyeing the VP9 and wanting to do more there. So that actually sounds like a really good match to have you involved and supported by them. But then we can work jointly to develop some stuff for aftermarket VP9 products. So yeah, we after a little bit more back and forth and evaluation, came to a sponsorship agreement with HK, and as of the first of the year, that was officially put into effect. So, yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Now the question is, does your VP9L does it have a button release or is it a paddle?
That was one of the things I said even from the get go when they and that was part of the reason why I also kind of had to choose the VP9 as my chosen gun, because not a lot of I don't even think technically the P30 has a push button release option available. I think they've developed that, but it hasn't. I don't think that's a thing yet officially. So yeah, I was like, the only way I'm going to do this is if it's push button. I'm sorry, Germans. I know you guys might hate me for that, but and it's not because I couldn't retrain the motion of activating a paddle release. That doesn't even bother me in the least. It's just that it's like, why, when because every other gun in my arsenal, and I've got quite a few guns in my collection, everything's a push button. Like, why would I have the one oddball, that I got to do something special with this guy and something different with everything else? And then, nothing lasts forever. And I mean, as much as I'd love to represent HK for many, many years to come, and hope that's the case, there's going to be a time where that's probably not the case. And it's like, so then I'll be back on something else that's a push button. So I just was straight up honest with them. I'm like, I'm going to just, if you guys don't mind. And they're like, no problem. And I think you'd be surprised, like a lot of the staff, the US based staff, I think they're on board with that. Like they get it. They like push buttons. We're Americans, but anyway, so that is what I'm running. And that's one of the things I do hope to see developed here, hopefully soon, relatively soon, is some aftermarket stuff for the push button models of VP9s. Because the current one's fine, but I wouldn't mind for competition, especially if it was a little bit more extended than what it currently is, and made out of metal or something, as opposed to like right now it's just a polymer one. But yeah,
no, and that that's the one thing as I remembered. I can't remember if it was the VP9 2020, the year of the 2020, I think is when it came out. But they finally allowed the push button.
That option, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but so many of those kinds of things, they may start as ideas or suggestions or whatever here in the U.S. with the U.S.-based HK staff, but it's all got to get pushed through Germany, and those Germans love them. Thank you guys for working together with me, but yeah, they can be a little bit stubborn. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody.
Right, exactly. Exactly. But no, so yeah, you're working with HK now. I thought that was cool because you were wearing that swag. But I want to I'm going to divert a little bit, but you've been shooting matches, you'll shoot sometimes indoors, like I think it's on Monday nights typically. You shoot
That's the match I'm able to hit the most often, yeah.
Right, and you'll shoot against Charlie Perez for the most part. You and Charlie go head and head. How, from a competitive standpoint, how nice is it to have somebody of that caliber at a local match all the time?
Oh yeah, Charlie's great, and he's. I mean, I've trained with. I've actually taken 2 classes from Charlie, done some private lessons with him as well. He's been hugely beneficial to me personally and individually, and consider him a dear friend. And then he's so active in the local competition scene. I mean, he just got done with his with a 2-year term as our section coordinator, and now that's been passed on to Jermaine Adams. But but he did a great job in that capacity. But he's so supportive on the local scene. He shoots almost all the matches, and yeah, it's wonderful to have somebody like Charlie of his caliber. A guy that has finished, I think, as high as 5th at limited nationals a few years back. Yeah, so I'm always competing against him. Like, even if we're not in the same division, I'm like, can I get, like, if I'm shooting, like, I think a match a couple of months ago, I managed to finish like north of 90% against him shooting limited optics, but I was shooting production, and I was like, yeah, just like, yeah, it just feels so good.
Right. I had to do all those extra reloads.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fun to compete against him, and he's just a good guy. If anybody shot with Charlie, he has a great attitude, he's great sense of humor, just a lot of fun to be around. Big Panda, as he's known, certainly lives up to that.
Yeah, his book is a very nice book. I don't know if a lot of people know about Charlie's book, but Charlie's book is a nice book to read. Definitely his thinking on things is a little different than most, but it is applied well in that book.
Yes,
that is for sure. But
it's a great book.
It is. So I want to talk a little bit now. I want to. We'll probably dive back into competition later because I've got more questions related to that. But I want to talk a little bit about the brands under concealedcarry.com right now. As you mentioned, the Range Tech timer earlier. The one thing I wish is that if people, how fixed time has become a thing now, right? Like where you do a fixed time field course. This is where I wish everyone would use a Range Tech timer, slap it on the shooter so they can always hear it and be like, ha,
yeah,
I got you. Like, because it all is it's for the people who don't see, it's probably smaller than this remote.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you could just clip it anywhere. And
yeah. And it hardly weighs anything. It's very lightweight. It's got an integrated lithium-ion battery. It's rechargeable. I mean, so as long as you keep, make sure it's charged, you're good to go. That's probably one of the big things. Like, some people are like, oh, I wish I could, just pop out a couple of AAAs and, at the range or whatever, because I forgot to charge it last night or whatnot. You could totally run it tethered, by the way, if you got a little battery pack, put a, micro USB cable over to it. I've had to do that a couple times at the range when I forgot to charge it. But yeah, it's low profile, lightweight. It's a simple device. We actually make those right here in our shop. I mean, they're literally handmade by our staff in the U.S. And that's another thing that may not be super important to everybody, but we're kind of proud about. And version 2, when it's ready, will also be made in the U.S.
You can't beat that.
Hard. It's hard to do that, honestly, in today's world where things are so competitive overseas, with especially electronics production.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, and that's good to see. You're employing Americans, giving them jobs, and it's a cool thing to see that and it's still affordable, right? At $80 or $79.90, whatever it is, whatever that price tag is, it's not terrible. But no, I've told people about because I've heard about the timer for a while. I used to be before I got deep into competition, I was one of those people who'd watch Active Self Protection Extra all the time with John Correa, who I didn't know he let his hair grow out and grow a really crazy beard. Until now, I'm like, who is this guy? Who's that guy? But he was always using the timers, and it's like, this would be great for fixed time stages because you just can hook it to the person and be like, you'll hear the beep, so you don't have to go chasing somebody. And
yep.
We gotta sell this idea because it'd be so much better than running around like a crazy person behind somebody, hoping they hear the beep. But no, it's a cool time.
Yep.
But you hook it up to a tablet, a phone. It's it's simple, easy peasy, right?
Yep. And version 2 will be pretty much all the same. All the things you expect it to do based on version 1 of Range Tech. Version 2 will do all the same, plus more, plus having it have its own integrated screen as well.
Oh, okay. That'll
Which,
be cool.
we knew that would be the case from the get-go. Like initially, it was a very pared down product because we were trying to just keep it simple, low cost to manufacture, all that. And so we're like, let's forego the screen. I mean, part of the key, feature here is it's Bluetooth, so just get your app on the phone. And yeah, we know that's not ideal for every shooter, for every scenario. But one of my favorite ways to use the Range Tech is I put my phone on a tripod, or I actually have a dedicated, just a cheap Amazon Kindle Fire tablet. Is what I use mostly now with the Range Tech shot timer, and I just put that on a tablet mount on a tripod, and like particularly if I'm if I'm doing stand and shoot type stuff, or even if I'm just having a little bit of lateral movement, I'll just put that slightly down range of me. And when you rotate the tablet or the phone horizontally, the numbers get real big. So it's easy to see. I mean, you see like AMG's now got like their fancy large display that you can pair with their timer now, which is great. We've had that for a long time. It's just, you rotate your phone horizontally and, so,
right, exactly.
and that's what I do in a lot of my training sessions is just stick it up downrange slightly and do the thing. And then I just look over and okay, there's the time. And, then you do the thing again.
Right.
Works great that way.
So I have a question, I guess, is has the Range Tech timer have you developed an app that integrates with maybe like an Apple Watch or a smartwatch to manually change shot like par times and whatnot?
Yeah, we haven't gotten that far. In fact, we're in a place right now that we're in between app developers. Neither me or Jacob, and business partner, have that kind of expertise. And we've actually gone through we actually had a full-time developer on staff for a couple of years there, working on a number of projects, and he moved on to other opportunities. Since then, we've worked with a couple of contractors, and they're contractors. So well, in fact, one of them was in the Ukraine and had barely gotten hired on with us to do some of the app development work when like the next month the Ukraine war kicked off. And then we didn't hear from him for like 4 months. So it was like, oh my gosh, like, at the time we're like, hey, okay, we'll work with this Ukrainian, the guy, he seems really talented and he was really responsive and smart. And he, we're like, hey, this will be great. And then all of a sudden a war happens. It's like, oh no. So we've been in a little bit of a development lull because we've been trying to find somebody to work with, actually.
Gotcha. Well, that'd be cool. Like if you do figure out an app and get that developed, that'd be even better, right? So more versatility to the product, as I'll say.
Yeah, man. Good thoughts.
But Mountain Medical, you guys have been you've been doing that for a little while now. It's
talk about timing again. We launched that brand in February 2020, and I remember that so well because a month later, COVID basically kicks off and shuts everything down. Well, imagine you're trying to launch a new trauma kit focused brand, and then a month later, just something as simple as your nitrile gloves, that supply dries up overnight.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, oh no. I mean, we were buying gloves from everywhere that we could find them and paying, 5-8 times more than what they were priced a month earlier, That was an interesting time, but it's been one of the fastest growing and most kind of stable, I think, of our sub brands that we've created. It's been a very good addition to the family of brands, to the business.
Well, and I wish more people, at least like even on the competition side, I'm one who carries around a big Zuka cart with my bag in it. But I saw this from a fellow shooter, Leif at GX Products. He mounted a Safariland ELS or QLS. I think it's the QLS Maybe
that has like that clips together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That
So I
QLS,
bolted
yeah.
that onto the top of like on the side of the flipping plate. So then I attached a med kit to it because I saw this idea. I'm like, that's perfect. You have it partially unclipped, so if somebody needs the medical out of it, they just yank they yank the med kit off of it, and you deal with the scenario or the
Yeah.
situation. I've had a friend, maybe a year or so before that. They had an accidental discharge at a match, and the closest med kit was 100 yards away. There was nothing on the bays. The closest thing was someone's car or the clubhouse. So it was like, kind of resonated with me. It's like, no, medical is not an option. Medical must be on your well, not on my person, but in my belongings, at least less than 25 yards away.
Dude, I'm glad to hear you say that. It's something I'm super passionate about. I have personally been on scene and or responded, and I'm not talking during my brief time in law enforcement. I'm talking as just a regular person. I've been on the scene of no fewer than 6 different, usually car accidents. Okay, including some fatalities that occurred. That was a really humbling. There was one really bad one that was, that kind of stuff. You don't forget. It changes you a little bit, right? And I've seen just a little bit of it compared to my friends that actually work full time, like say as paramedics or EMTs or whatnot. But I had one of our mountain medical kits with me. I always travel with one. I always have one. If you see me at matches, I'll have one somewhere in my range bag or something, right? I was on my way to teach a class in Alabama 2 years ago, this month actually. And on my way to the class, witnessed it could have been worse, but it was a pretty severe accident. Older lady, about 60, 70 years old, maybe. She just didn't see before she turned and went right in front of somebody and crunch. And that kit came out and it got used. And what was amazing was I was prepared to do whatever I needed to do. I've done some, nothing crazy. I'm not like a doctor or a nurse or anything like that, but I've been through over the years many different medical training courses, especially focused around trauma, and maintained like a CPR AED certification at the very least and things like that. So I run up there with my kit and getting ready to go to work on this lady, and another gentleman runs over and he's like, I'm a firefighter EMT. And I'm like, sweet. I'm like, you got a kit? He's like, no. And he was off duty, and I'm like, lucky day for you. Here's my kit. He's like, what's all in there? I'm like, just about anything you're going to need. And we both donned gloves, and I open it up. I'm like, you just tell me what you want, what you need. And, I just started handing him stuff, and so, and that's actually, and I use that story as a lesson to folks too, that some people be like, well, I'm not going to get a kit because I don't have the training to use that stuff. And it's like, okay, another really severe, actually it was one of the fatality accidents I've been on the scene of a number of years ago now in Utah. There was a doctor that also witnessed that and came over. At that time, I wasn't living the lifestyle of having my med kit with me everywhere, so I didn't have one. But there was a doctor on scene, and it was like, and he didn't have anything. So, if we just get more people being prepared like that and having, all it takes is put a little trauma kit in the trunk of your car or in the back or whatever. And because even if you don't have the expertise or the knowledge or the comfort to feel, because some people are not okay with the sight of blood, but you're on scene and somebody's like, I'm a doctor or I'm an EMT, and you're like, you don't have a kit? Here's my kit. Like you just became the supply line, for that, and that has value as well. So there you go, man. It's important, and it saves lives. I'll give you one other example. There was a 3-gun match a few years ago in Missouri. I wasn't there, but got the report from friends of mine that that did shoot that match. And there was a gentleman at the match that had a heart attack, and he'd be dead today, except that somebody, and this is not a trauma kit, but just the idea of having things and being prepared for such things. Somebody at that match had an AED in their vehicle, ran and retrieved it, got back, put the patches on, did the thing. Gentleman got shocked, heart brought back to life. He's alive and well today because somebody at a 3-gun match actually showed up with an AED in their car.
And that's very rare. Like most people, private citizens don't have an AED.
Yes.
But
Yes, exactly.
it speaks volumes for people's preparedness, right?
Yep.
Like even at my personal place of employment, we have, for everyone, there's some first responders. They go through the Red Cross, CPR AED training. But I'm like,
Yep.
we have machinery that could literally end somebody's life, or physically and mangle them where they can't work again. We need tourniquets that are not the little itty bitty rubber bands. Like I'm like, so I told the safety people at the time, like, here, just buy these kits and give them to have them on site, give them to your first responders, and have them to tell them to carry them with them at all time. Well, within arm's reach or whatever. We haven't had to use one yet, but I'm glad that I forced the hand, so we had those on site, because it could be a bad day if somebody really got messed up. But
Yeah. I wish I knew, back then what I know and understand now, because in my previous life, I was a carpenter, a construction worker. Straight out of high school, I went to work doing construction work, and even my bachelor's degree. Once I finally I went to college when I was 22, and I majored in construction management. So I've kind of, a lot of my background is construction. I've witnessed a number of injuries over the years, some pretty gnarly ones, and I've been injured. And it's just like, I'm like, wow, you just don't know. And I do think that overall, like at a cultural level, like our society has evolved too, to where this is a lot more expected, or at least thought of, as far as the idea of being prepared for trauma medicine. But back in the late 90s is when like 98, 99 would be like when I ever worked my first construction job. Nobody was thinking tourniquets at that time, Honestly, the global war on terror is responsible for that in a huge way, as far as bringing tourniquets to the forefront of, because in the 90s, people were still going off of the old Vietnam War doctrine, which was tourniquet. Oh no, we don't want to use that. Like, people are going to lose their limbs if we put a tourniquet on. It's like, well, I'll take my chances with losing a limb versus my life. But anyway,
exactly. Yes.
But that's where we were, as a society, in that time frame. And so you look back, it's like, yeah, Anyway,
yeah, it's so I need to push it again, because we really need to have like a stop the bleed class at my facility, just because it's like, we go through this training, let's take it the extra step and actually get some more training. I've been lucky enough, I've gone through my own. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a sworn officer. I wanted to be a law enforcement officer until, things change in your life. But I had to take a medical first responder class through the college. And I was like, I was going to get licensed. And it actually intrigued me enough to want to go get the license, because most people don't. But, but it sparked a thing about being, walking up onto bad scenes and being more prepared than, you don't need to be a bystander. You can be a force multiplier in the good, with some training and a little bit of gear.
Yeah. And people will be surprised, honestly, just how, of course, there's a lot of training you can do, but there's a lot you can do with really not that much training, especially when you think about it from, like, for us to get good as shooters, we spend a lot of hours and perhaps many classes, if you're out there and you're the class taking type, to get good. But you can learn some really significant stuff that could actually save lives with a single day class, or even sometimes just a few hours. Putting a tourniquet on, for instance, it's not rocket science, So you get a little training in that, and you can really make a difference in somebody's life. I'll throw something your way, just not that you have to do anything about this or whatever, just making it known. But my director of training of our Mountain Man Medical brand, his name's Brian McLaughlin. He's a former Navy corpsman that deployed with Marine Corps units in Afghanistan. He also he was an EMT for a number of years as well. And Brian, he will, if it's a big enough class or whatever, he will go on the road and teach Stop the Bleed, or we have other classes that he teaches as well, kind of just depending on what the organization is looking for. And we've done package deals for organizations. He did it in Arizona. Actually, he's done, I think, twice in Arizona. He's doing one actually here locally. Speaking of Charlie Perez, the Ben Lomond Gun Club that Charlie's on the board of, where Charlie runs his matches. They're actually, they just got they picked up from us last month like a dozen trauma kits, and Brian's going out there soon here to do a full day course to get everybody on the board of that range up to speed on trauma medicine.
That's awesome. That's some good initiative on Charlie and their board's part to be up to snuff.
Huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Brian, we've done package deals like that where it's like, hey, here we'll provide you the number of kits you need. Brian will come out and do training. So that way you're getting the knowledge and the product to save lives.
Right. Absolutely. And that's good on you guys, right? To promote that and make that a thing, right? So most companies will be like, here's your kits. Go figure it out, right?
Yep.
But speaking of kind of like, one day classes or whatnot, have you found that, the power of social media or the internet has pushed more people to want to get better and go train and actually go take a class?
I do. Yes, actually. So I'll give you an interesting example. About a year ago, you brought up John Correa and Active Self-Protection, his YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. I went down to the Phoenix, Arizona area and put on my 2-day pistol intelligence class. And they were like, hey, would you mind if we filmed this and put it in our app, your whole class? And I was like, heck yeah. I mean, some trainers would be like, oh man, my whole class where people can just go watch it, like that'll make them not want to come and take my class. And that's not my feeling. I mean, I think that's true for a few people, but what I have definitely seen as a traveling instructor, I mean, I'm not doing it every weekend or every other weekend, even where like some guys are doing, but I get on the road a few times a year and teach classes. I have students that sign up for my classes because they saw my class in the app, in this Active Self-Protection app. Even and what's been great too is they've already gone through the whole class, and now they show up for the real thing in person, and they already kind of have all this background information. They're just a lot more prepared. But I have seen people sign up because that information was put out there, and so I could do a better job social media wise. Most of it's just me not having the time to be constantly creating content for my social media. But I am absolutely of the opinion of put the stuff out there, and it will bring people to you. And by that, like again, I do think there's some people who are like, I'll just go watch your YouTube channel. Now I don't need to really come and train with you. Those aren't even the students that I want. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. But the students that see the content that I put out there and then want to come to my class, those are the students I want. It's all about finding the right, if we have to approach it like a business, which we should. I mean, instruction is, teaching as an instructor is a business. I want the right customer. Mm-hmm. If I have the right customer, they're happier and I'm happier. Like they want to train with me. Which they're a lot better student because of that. Whereas I remember, back when I was an agency instructor, and I've even been in classes as a student where agencies, police agencies were sending their officers to take, and they're like, hey, you get assigned to go to this training class because we need somebody on staff that's certified in whatever thing. You know what? A lot of those guys sitting there just like, I really would rather be somewhere else, but I have to take this class. I don't want those students, man. I want the ones that want to train with me, and they're going to want to train with me because of the content they see.
Right. Yeah. And absolutely. Now, there are always going to be those people who's like, oh man, I'd rather be on PTO, but no, they sent me to this class. But then there's the cops who are like, yeah, I don't have to go to work today. I had to go shoot bullets for and actually go train. Those are the nice ones.
Those are the ones that are good students. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
the ones that seek it out on their own, either proactively trying to get their agency to cover the expense, or the ones, and I know who you are because I've seen you guys and I know many of them, the cops that pay out of their own pocket to go take training that is relevant to them and or their agency. Like that's a very noble thing, and not many of them are willing to do that, and they are excellent students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they want to be good at their craft. They want to go home at the end of the day. So they're gonna
Exactly.
they're gonna go learn. They're gonna go get invested. Mental, financially and emotionally invested, and that's good on them. I know.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, please go patronize our sponsors here when you are available. We've got Hunters HD Gold, Go Fast Don't Suck, Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, Range Panda, Southern Barbecue, Laugh and Load, Summit City Bullets, 2 Alpha Apparel, and Tom Castro Shoot Academy. Now let's get back to this episode. With the classes online, it helps. It's easy to promote it. You can like those clips like on active self-protection or even your whole class. It drives people to want to be like, okay, I want to know more about from Riley, right? And then they might they go online, they take a class, they take another class. It's always a good thing. Like, I know, I can't remember if it was 2022 or 23. You were actually up here in my neck of the woods in Michigan. Taught a class. One of my decent buddies who got me into competition shooting took your class, and he really enjoyed it because I think it was a doubleheader weekend. It was like he took your class on one weekend, and then the next weekend he was hosting Tim Herron. So it was always
Yep. Yeah,
so
that was good. That was a good one. We had a good class. It was a fun time.
Because you were teaching probably up at the post 40.
Yes.
46.
46. Yeah.
Yep. Steve Fisher's home club.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how I even got in there. Was Steve Fisher's been a good friend for. I mean, and actually, it wasn't even me directly, but my host, Christy is her name. She also knows Steve, and I think she went to him like, "Hey, can we host this at your club?" And I think there must have been Riley, yeah, sure, no problem, yeah, So very, very appreciative to Steve for allowing me to come in and make you. It's a beautiful club. Yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, I'm still surprised that he's the president, even though he's hardly home. It's
Yeah.
You keep voting for him, yet you know what he does for a living, right?
Right.
He takes care of the place. But,
Yep. And he was
one
very kind to come out. He came out, I think, both days actually. Just kind of checking in on things. I don't think he was originally planning on being available that weekend or being around, but I think he found out that he was and came out and said hello and kind of observed some of the class, and it was nice. Very appreciated.
So you mentioned it's not like an every weekend thing, a couple times a year. How many classes on average do you get to go travel for?
Yeah, so traveling classes, this has been true for the last couple of years. I budget 6 on-the-road classes a year. That's what I have to do to manage all the other things in my life, and including being able to still shoot the matches that I want to be able to shoot. I'm not the most active competitive shooter even, I mean, if you look at my history, it's like I average about 1 match a month, and that's including majors a lot of times, because that's about all the time I have. I'm a father of 5 children. They got things going on, in their lives I need to be a part of. Of course, running a couple of busy businesses. And so, I was like, okay, look, I could do 6 classes a year on the road. That's what I could do. I think I ended up last year, maybe the year before. There was one year I think I squeezed in one extra class and did 7. And then the other thing too is that this year I'm teaching at 4 training conferences. Last year was 3. So like this year I'm teaching at TACCon, or also known as the Tactical Conference in Dallas, Texas. That's in April. Later in April, I'm teaching at a Girl and a Gun National Conference here actually in Colorado. That's nice. It's not too far from home. And then I teach at the Active Self-Protection National Conference. Actually just got that confirmed with them a few days ago. They were a little up in the air on what dates those are going to land on, and it sounds like it's going to be the first weekend, I think, of September. And then this will be the 4th year this year that we put on our own training conference, concealedcarry.com, which is called the Guardian Conference, and that is the 3rd weekend of September. So looking forward to doing that for the 4th time. It's it's a lot of work to put on a training conference, and all the logistics involved, and bringing in outside instructors, and of course people traveling from all over to come to your event, and you want to make it a success. And but it's a great time, and it's a great opportunity for people to to get some training and also to expose themselves to a bunch of different instructors. That what we often find is, if for those that have never attended anything like that, like a training conference, is they go, "Ooh, I liked training with that guy. I only got a 4-hour block with him at this training conference, but we jived. Like he's teaching or she's teaching something I'm interested in. It makes sense to me. I like their approach. I like their style, whatever it is." And a lot of times, students from our training conferences will end up becoming students of those instructors at their future classes as well. And so, anyway, I teach at 4 conferences this year. So that's 4 conferences plus 6 on the road classes. That's 10 weeks. I know some people are like, "Oh, that's rookie numbers," but then I start adding in the major matches, and then I start adding in, my anniversary and kids' birthdays, and you see where I'm getting. And so, yeah. Maybe when the kids are out of the house, I will up the quantity that I'm able to get out there and teach. We'll see.
But at least you're keeping within your ideal. You are a very busy person. Like you do so many different attributes of day-to-day life and your businesses. So it's reasonable to understand you only do, we'll say, 10 on the road gigs. And I like that you say, I can tell you're a podcaster because you segue really well talking about your conference. So that's the good part, right? Is you do the work for me and I don't have to. But what is this? The 3rd or 4th year
this
you've
is
done?
The 4th year.
Okay, 4th year for the Guardian Conference.
Yeah, so our first one was in 2020, and that was interesting because we're like, do we do this? It was kind of like still the year of COVID, and managed to make it work, and it was great. We had a good time. Fourth time.
And is that a 2-day conference, a 3-day conference?
It's 3 days. Well, kind of 3.5, really. I mean, it's a good idea. Folks, we have like kind of a registration or check-in on Thursday evening of that weekend. They can come out to the range, check things out. They get their schedules, all that. Kind of mosey about and get, and mingle and get to know each other, which is fun. Then Friday morning, we kick things off and we train all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. We have a whole bunch of different classes, and each year we keep, shaking it up a little bit, adding some variety. And in the beginning, it was like, let's keep it simple, make sure it works, make sure it's a good product, in terms as far as conferences go. And then each year we just try to do something a little bit cooler and different and more awesome. So everything up to this point has been purely pistol focused, and it will always be, I think, a little bit more heavily focused towards concealed carry, because that is kind of what we do as a business, first and foremost. But we've never been of the opinion that that's the only thing we should be focused on. And so this year, for the first time, we will have a carbine class, a rifle class. And I suppose actually students, if they showed up with a PCC, they could probably do that too. I don't see why that would be an issue. So it'll be a rifle class. And we'll have this year also for the first time. What am I overlooking? There was something else that's new this year that I'm really excited about. We're going to have a shotgun class.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it'll be like a tactical shotgun class, something sort of geared to, something that's like kind of home defense oriented, right? So that'll be kind of cool doing that for the first time. We'll continue to have legal classes, medical classes, combatives classes. We've had that every year. That's been really popular. So you come and get some basic instruction on how to defend yourself with your hands. We have some fantastic instructors that do that. Paul Sharp was our guy last year. I think he'll be back this year too. He's just amazing, and his background is amazing too, to be able to teach people that kind of stuff. So legal, medical, combatives, force on force. So we had a force on force class this last year. I think we'll have that this year too. The idea is to really give everybody the opportunity to get exposed to all these different disciplines and skills within, what makes a well-rounded, self-defender. A citizen self-defender. Well, we term that a guardian. Okay, guardian of yourselves, guardians of your households, guardians of your community. We want people to be, lawful and moral and ethical and skilled and smart and have all that going for them. So we try to do all the things. Oh, and we have a low light class. We've had low light all the years, and we'll have that. That continues to be very popular because not a lot of people get the opportunity to do much low light training. So meaning, how do you use a handheld light with your gun? How to use a weapon mounted light? So that's a part of the event as well.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a really cool event, and I think more people should go to this kind of teachings and seminars. Do you have dates for that yet that are live, or are you still in the planning?
And the event's already probably a little more than half sold. So it's September 20th to the 22nd, if I've got my dates correct, of this year. That's in Oklahoma City, or actually just north, and it's like northeast of Oklahoma City at Oklahoma City Gun Club. In fact, a really great USPSA and Steel Challenge club there. One of the conference years, not this last one, but two of them ago, I was able to sneak in during my lunch break and shoot my first official ever sanctioned Steel Challenge match, and earned a master classification in Steel Challenge from that one go. And I mean, like I arranged it with the match director, and he's great. He's very supportive of our conference too. We just have to. Our conference lands on the same weekend as their Steel Challenge match each year. And I just couldn't quite make it happen this last go around because I did want to, but 2 years ago I said, "Hey Matt, any chance I could sneak over there around noon and just run through those stages real quick?" And he's like, "Man, come on down." And so we did that. And that was fun. But Oklahoma City Gun Club is the location, September 20th to 22nd of this year. And the website is guardianconference.com. That's where you can find all the details, info, get signed up. We still have early bird pricing in effect. That will probably change before too long. I can't say exactly when, but right. I wouldn't wait to get signed up if you're interested.
Right, and that's really cool. You get to do that, and you're offering some specials and whatnot for people who sign up. Put your money down, put your money where your mouth is, people. I mean, go take some training, go get some good education, and be a better guardian, be a better a patriot, or whatever you want to phrase that term as. But
absolutely,
it's good on people to get out and get training. I think it's getting better now over the years. Is there's less dogma of I don't need to go get training, and it's more people are willing to go and learn from somebody and get their experiences, which is always a pleasure and a good sight.
I agree.
I want to talk about your podcast in a second, but I have to bring up this story or what was going through your brain when your vehicle caught on fire.
Oh, I am the car fire guy. I will never live that down.
Well, I mean, it's not like you intentionally lit your car.
Oh, sure. On fire. It's just so funny because everybody wants to know about it. So what? You just want the story?
Well, I guess so at this, give me from the point of, oh crap, this is not normal. Like, what at that point? Like, what was going through your brain? What was that first thing you're gonna do? Right? Like,
yeah. So, so some context first. So I was actually on my way down to, a couple different places in Texas. So I was being hosted by Matt Little. Those of you that don't know Matt, but he's a USPSA master, IDPA master, down in kind of the Temple, Texas area, just north of Austin. Actually, he's in between Austin and Temple. And he hosted me for a class down there, which I was honored by because he's a very legitimate instructor himself, and it was nice that he wanted me to do that. And I consider Matt a good friend too. He's been really good to me over the years. So I'm on my way down there for that. But we made the arrangements to shoot. It happened. So they actually moved Area 4 championship back a week last year. If I recall, or forward a week. It was something like that.
It was back a week because it was on conflicting weekends with Area 5, which
there you go.
I was part of the host club for that, and we were like, yes, they moved.
Yeah,
continue.
Right. So that's exactly right. So we scheduled the class, try not to conflict with Area 4 for obvious reasons. And so then at some point we realized, oh no, like it got moved, and now it is the same weekend, and he had already floated the idea. He's like, you should come down and shoot Area 4. That was before they moved the dates. I was like, man, I don't know that I can, I can't spend a whole week plus down there. And I don't know that I can fly down, shoot the match, come home, and then go down again. And so anyway, it actually worked out great that it conflicted, because then we decided, let's shoot Area 4 on. I actually pushed originally for shooting it on Friday. They had a Friday all day schedule available. Matt was like, I don't know. He's a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know that I have it in me to shoot Area 4 on Friday and then do your class Saturday, Sunday. So I was like, okay, I'll drive down Wednesday. I had made the decision to drive because we were going to be up in northwest or northeast of Dallas, and then all the way down to Temple, and I was like, it just logistically, I'll just drive down there, and it's like 12 hours. It's not the end of the world. So I drive down, and it was like Wednesday about noon or 1 o'clock, and I was in Abilene, which that may sound strange because I was coming from Colorado and I'm supposed to go to Dallas, but actually I was going to meet Matt and pick him up. I was going a little bit out of my way, which is fine. But his wife Angela needed their vehicle while we were going to be shooting the match. So I was like, I'll come down and get you. It's like an extra 2 hours, but it's cool because you're my bro. So I'm passing through Abilene. I stopped there to get fuel and Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, all right, got my lunch. Let's get back on the road. And I had just finished eating my fries, the delicious Chick-fil-A waffle fries. And I noticed that my car starts losing power. And I'm like, what the heck? This is not good. But then it kind of came back. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I imagined that. So I keep going, and I'm just barely on the highway after getting my lunch, doing about 70 or 75, whatever the speed limit was, or close to the speed limit. And then all of a sudden it just dies, and I'm like, oh no, So I start coasting over to the right. I had just actually passed somebody, so that was kind of interesting, right? Like, oh hey, sorry, I just passed you, and now you're passing me. Hazards on, pull over. As soon as I got stopped, I had no clue that there was a fire at this point. I couldn't even see like smoke behind me, and so, but as soon as I stopped, all of a sudden flames went. I mean, literally like that whoosh sound, like when something explodes, kind of, or like, something, fuel got added to something, right? And the working theory still to this day is that my fuel line ruptured or fuel filter or something, which is that vehicle is a Ford Expedition. I know exactly where the fuel filter is. I've replaced it, and something to do with that. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know for sure, but that was the thought. Because there was definitely fuel that was fueling this in a significant way. So, and it started in the middle of the frame, not like people would think it was in the engine compartment. No, it was back, closer to like where the fuel filter and the fuel tank itself actually would be. So anyway, yeah, man, flames. I'm like, oh crap, like this just got real. I mean, and a moment ago, I'm just enjoying my fries and I'm about to reach for my sandwich and enjoy that too. And it just turned into something else entirely. Needless to say, I never did get my sandwich. Yeah, I was disappointed about that. But I got pulled over and I got out. I had to literally leap through flames. It wasn't like, this makes it sound way cooler than it was probably. But I just remember thinking there's flames up by my window of my car, of my driver's side door, and the same thing on the passenger side. And I'm like, well, I got to get out. What are you going to do? So I just took a deep breath, opened the door, jumped out, got around behind the vehicle, and I'm just standing there observing things like what's going on. And I'm thinking too, I'm like, I had 2 cases of ammo with me, way more than what I needed to teach a class and shoot a match. But I was like, I was like, I don't know if one case will do both the match and the class. So I was like, I'll just throw in an extra case, So I was like, ammo, guns, all the gear. And I'm looking at things and I'm like, I think I can quickly get there. It's all in the back. So I open up the back door and I just start chucking stuff out. Everything that I can. And I managed to get it all chucked out 20 feet or so away, which is all I could manage at the time. And about that time, a cop shows up. And he's all like, hey, man, I really need you to step away from the vehicle. I'm like, I know. So I got out what I could and moved it as far away as I could before he's like, come on, man, come over here, further away, safer, all that. And I'm thinking, hey, 911 call's been made already. They'll be here in a few minutes, hopefully, right? And we'll get this extinguished and everything will be, I'll have to get a new car, but whatever. So, needless to say, it took them like 25 plus minutes to respond. I was just far enough out of Abilene that I was into I guess, the county jurisdiction or whatever. That was some volunteer fire department that had to respond. So they took a while to get there. And unfortunately, by that point, cars fully engulfed. Flames spread to the ditch bank. Flames came down the ditch bank, went to where all my stuff was, lit all my ammo off. So if you saw the video, you know that I posted, the car's fully engulfed and there's ammo going pop, 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 all over the place. Amazingly, my guns survived. I had a Pelican case that got burned halfway through, and it burned basically right up to, like, if it had gone further, it would have destroyed my guns. But the guns survived. My couple of my mag pouches and my holster survived, but my belt was toast. And I borrowed a belt from Matt. Threw on the couple of mag pouches I had. Got my drop hanger, my holster on it. You know, I couldn't believe my holster wasn't deformed from the heat alone. You know, but it was totally fine. And then he had to wait for his wife to get done with her thing, and then he grabbed the truck and drove up to pick me up. And then we drove over to Dallas to meet up with Tim Herron. We were staying in an Airbnb together, and we got in at like 10:30 p.m. We were supposed to be there way earlier, walk the match or the stages, all that, you know, and we didn't get that opportunity. So we showed up the next morning, shot Area 4. And then we took Friday off, and then I taught a class that weekend. And on Monday, I bought a new car and drove home. Well, newer.
Yeah. New to you.
New to me.
Yeah. Did you get a Dominate Defense Replacement belt, or did you go to a different?
Did.
Okay.
It was so kind of them. I didn't ask for them to. They straight up sent me a new one. It was super cool. They even got it. I think it was actually home at my house before I got home from that trip. That was amazing. And that is what I run. I love that. Those are great belts.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Jason's team makes amazing belts. I can't thank him enough for the support he's given me over the years. It's just a fantastic product, and it's made in America in Idaho, like of all places, right? So it's like you can't complain there.
Yep.
But yeah, that's definitely a story you will never forget. You will tell your grandchildren of this story of the one time I went to go see my friend Matt and my car went in flames.
Oh, dude. Yeah. You're right. I will never forget. It was something else.
And as much as you want that, hopefully people forget about this story, they will never forget either.
No. And that's fine. I enjoy telling it. You know, it's a unique thing, you know, even though like tough life experiences are still experiences, and they make you who you are. And so, I mean, that's part of me, man. And I'll say I did not have my greatest, you know, performance at Area 4. Oh, speaking of which, shot with borrowed ammo, right? Because all the ammo burned up. And I always have to make sure that I give him recognition for this, because Fabio Spinella, for those that know Fabio, he like straight up, he gave me 500 rounds. And I managed to shoot the match, and I had to borrow a little bit from somebody, I think from Matt actually, for the weekend class. But I managed to shoot the match and get through most of the class on the weekend with my demos and stuff with the ammo that Fabio gave me and refused to accept payment for. Still refuses to accept payment from me. The shooting community, of course, is filled with amazing folks. I will never forget those that reached out to me, those that gave me things and loaned me things, those that helped me out. I was glad to be able to still shoot the match. I know some people were like, I can't believe you're here, man, after everything. I was like, well, I was going to be here regardless. Like, what else would I be doing? Sitting back moping, you know, like feeling sorry for myself? No, let's shoot Area 4, man, you know. And I think I did well considering. I remember showing at the match too and thinking, okay, mental game. Like, we can do this. And I think for the most part, I was pretty good at putting a lot of that out of my mind, but I think there was still something that was a little off.
Oh yeah, I mean, all things considered, I would accept that as well. I'm like I'm alive, right?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, no. Speaking of Fabio, here in well, this will be out, but before then. But I record with Fabio sometime in March, so that'll be a good one to talk about too.
Yeah.
My own defender. That's his.
Yes,
that's
correct.
his company. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's and he's on Team Beretta, so he all those Beretta converts or all those Beretta hipsters now, I guess, is they all love the Beretta. Ernest was first, y'all. Ernest and Les Kiss Martoni.
Yes. Good old Les. I saw your podcast with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did that with him, and it's always good. I love talking hot dogs with Les because with being so close to Chicago, people are like, you don't know it. Like you don't like. Everyone thinks I'm like a Michigan fan when it comes to like Detroit sports. I'm like, no, I'm a Blackhawks hockey fan. So I'm like a partial Chicago convert, and they do make the best hot dogs. So.
I agree with that. I've enjoyed a Chicago dog more than once.
But yeah. So now we will get off of the topic of the flaming bad day in Area 4. But we've talked pre-show. You said you're over 700 episodes in your podcast.
Yeah.
Which is remarkable, right? Like I mentioned, I'm at 146, which I still think is crazy at this point, but I do it because I love it. But you do it and provide a lot of good information to the listeners about plenty of different topics. I mean, you still have things to talk about at 700 episodes, right?
We think we do. We try. You're not wrong though, as far as like, okay, what do we talk about this go around? I mean, we've it becomes difficult for sure to sometimes come up with ideas.
Right. Well, yeah. And does it ever come up like, oh, this popped up on the news today, I'm going to talk something about this? Like it just hits you, or is it always a planned topic?
Okay. Yeah. So there are definitely those episodes where I'm inspired by something I saw on social media, maybe in a Facebook group or on Instagram or something. It's like, oh, that'd be interesting, or if people are wondering about this thing, then, well, there's interest. So we should probably talk about that. Right. We have a couple of things that are planned out in advance, as far as we always, do some of the same kind of episodes. So like once a month, for instance, we always do what we call our Justified Saves episode, which Justified Saves is our terminology for some people know it as a defensive gun use. Mm-hmm. So a civilian involved instance where somebody has to use a gun to defend themselves, right? And that's our criteria for it. And we like the terminology Justified Saves because one, we feel like it's important that it's justified, that the civilian makes the correct legal and moral decisions to use deadly force. It's a serious thing, and then also that saving life is involved, right? And that's a good thing. There's so many on the anti-gun side that want to paint us as murderers and ugly, terrible, horrible people, and it's like, no, like every year in this country there are it's not just tens of thousands, it's hundreds of thousands. That is borne out in the statistics. There was actually a recent study out of, I think, George Washington University, I think it was, a year or two ago, that really highlighted that fact that it's hundreds of thousands, if not like about 1 million or so, of instances where people save lives with the use of a gun in this country. That's amazing to me. Right. And so anyway, we do a Justified Saves episode once per month, and we just highlight stories of that, that we found in the previous month. And there's no shortage of them. And we love sharing. In fact, we just had one yesterday, Sunday afternoon, in a basically like a strip mall, not that far from me, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes south of me. Kind of unexpected. I was like, ooh. Dude showed up at a construction site that he, I guess, was responsible for managing or something, and found a couple people inside there, like ransacking the place or whatever. So probably just stumbles upon them, right? This sort of thing happens all the time. And, next thing he knows, they're physically, assaulting him. And so he draws his gun and shoots them both dead. Mm-hmm. That just happened yesterday here, like 15 minutes from my house, and like, it's unfortunate that kind of thing has to happen, but sometimes it has to happen because there are really ugly, nasty, terrible people that want to do really ugly, terrible, nasty things to us. So anyway, we highlight those stories once a month on the podcast. We also do one episode a month that focuses on legislative issues, dealing with Second Amendment, also industry-related news. And then usually the other episodes each month are more topical in nature. And I have some guests. I probably should do more guests on the show. But in the beginning, we actually intentionally did not, like, there were so many other podcasts at the time. And I'm not like, don't take this the wrong way with respect to your show. But we're like, hey, this is a pretty common, formula where a podcast is like, hey, come on my show and I interview you. And and people like that. Those kind of podcasts have a place. Like your podcast has a place. But we just said, let's do something a little different. And we just wanted it to be very focused on concealed carry and self-defense related information. And so we choose topics to talk about and share, our thoughts on those. And over time, we've actually had a lot of guests on the podcast out of those 700 plus episodes. But I probably should do more because that's one way of keeping things fresh. As you noted, it's challenging to talk about things 700 plus episodes later. So
but it's okay. You're not Steve Anderson, who literally says, I think I'm running out of things to talk about. And it's like, it sounds like the same show. So you're doing okay, right? Like, if you come to that point, then you're like, it's time to hang up the microphone, I guess, right?
Yeah. That's fun, So I don't know that we actually officially mentioned the name of the podcast. So I'm going to make sure I toot my own horn here.
Yeah,
Concealed Carry Podcast. All right. So go check it out. 8 years now we've been doing it. 700 plus episodes. And I'm proud to say we're over 8 million downloads.
Wow, that's impressive. Now you've got to be probably the number one podcast, firearms podcast, at least by this point.
I don't, and it's hard to say because unless people like put those numbers out there publicly, you don't really get to see other people's stats. I think actually probably there's one or two others that might have us beat, but we're definitely in the top 5. That I can confidently say.
Right. Yeah, and it'd be nice if you could actually see true analytic, like even if it's just raw data. It's like, all right, through these platforms, your podcast or your RSS feed is right there, right?
Yeah.
True data,
Yep.
simple. You don't have to give away all the secrets, but that's how it makes you feel good, right? Like,
yeah,
or
absolutely.
It's like Apple or like Spotify for podcasters, which I use as my pushing platform. It's like, oh, you're the top 1% of this niche. I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't matter to me. It's putting me in a little bubble. Like, I don't care. I want to know how I'm competing against these other podcasts, which Apple does a little bit better job about showing that because you can search a little bit better. But
yep, yeah, but as you acknowledged earlier in our conversation, just being able to stick around for 100 plus episodes like you have, that's going to put you in that 1% or better because there's so many podcasts that come and go. They just, it's not easy to do. You've got to be really committed to producing a podcast if you're going to be around for longer than about 10 episodes.
Yeah, it's everyone's got this great intention, great idea, and then I think that I've found success in is that I do this by myself. Yes, I have to go get a guest, but I don't rely on a third person to be a co-host to talk about things. I have a live stream that I do that with, but I hold that person very much accountable. But like, hey, you need to let me know if you're not going to be here so I can find a replacement for you.
Yep.
And I've got great friends who'll be like, oh yeah, I'll be a replacement for the night. Sweet. Works for me. But the podcast being so successful going on, we started this in the beginning of February 2021. So it's over 3 years now that we've been doing this. So
bravo.
But I don't think I'll stop anytime soon until people tell me to shut the F up. But I don't do most of the talking, as you know. Like I let the guests speak, share what they got to share. So it's always a good thing. But Riley, I know we're kind of near our kind of time limit for the night. So
sure.
I want to wrap this up. But usually this is the part where I let you promote yourself, promote the people who help you out, promote you've got a lot of people to share about because you have so many businesses that you own and are running on a day-to-day basis, and the people who help support you in your shooting. So what do I call it? Pay the bills, I guess is what I call it.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, I appreciate that. Well, so first of all, I'll throw out there my personal website is RileyBowman.com. That's where you can find my training, classes, my schedule, and other links to things I'm involved in, including my sponsors. So definitely want to recognize my sponsors. Obviously, HK we talked about. Proud to be part of Team HK, and I'm glad to see that also they seem to be expressing a little more interest in supporting. Potentially, we'll see. I don't know how far they're going to go, but it was nice that they are supporting. I do the training thing and I'm on the defensive side, but I'm also a competitive shooter. And, I think that they haven't been as involved in the competition, game in a while. So So kind of cool to see that. Concealedcarry.com, my main business, and the thing that kind of owns all the other sub businesses. And so, yeah, and that's literally our business name. I guess our official name is Concealed Carry Inc., but we, doing business as concealedcarry.com makes it really easy for people to know where to find us. Gray Guns, my other big sponsor, and actually just got a package with some goodies from them today, actually. So appreciate their support. This is some VP. Actually, they sent me this too. It's actually a Taylor freelance product, but Grey Gun sells it on their site. So brass backstrap for VP9. So, and actually working on some. They're helping me out to hopefully come out with some brass side panels, because folks that know the VP9s, you can replace not just the backstrap but also the side panels to get a little bit different grip profile. It fits your hand better or whatever. So we've already got the backstrap and hope to do the side panels now in brass. Get a little bit more weight in the gun and a little bit better grip texture too. So pretty excited about that. CCW Safe and Firearm Trainers Association, actually two sister companies. You see them wearing an FTA shirt. They back me with insurance as an instructor, and CCW Safe for the defensive side if I ever need to rely on legal services. Mm-hmm. Hunters HD Gold. Brian's been a huge supporter of me for 4 years probably now, at least. Maybe even a bit longer. Really, really love. In fact, everywhere I go, I've got my Hunters HD Gold glasses. I wear these in the shop when I'm working on stuff that requires eye protection, and I wear them driving home in the sunlight. I love those glasses. Something I haven't put out there officially publicly, although I will be doing some posts about soon. Holosun actually invited me to represent them, and flattered by that. And so running the 507 comp on my competition guns, and have several. I've actually been using Holosun optics for years, but nice to make a relationship there more formal and official, and represent them. And then we talked about KSG Armory, and Mountain Medical, Range Tech Shot Timers, some of my businesses. Radiant Gear is another one of the sub brands. And my jerseys are made by Max T Sportswear. And actually hoping to get some new jerseys with all the HK stuff from them soon. So that'll be pretty cool. Yeah, but again, you can check everything out personally, and again, links to all the other stuff on RileyBowman.com. That makes it simple. And if you'd like to check out some classes, I'm doing classes in California next month. I've got Texas coming up later this year. I'll be over in North Carolina, up in Spokane, Washington. Where else am I going to be? I know I'm missing a couple others there, but anyway, we'll be doing a couple. I actually do try to plan. I try to kind of hit different pockets of the country, and I shift that around a little bit each year too. Just trying to get around to make it, to give people an opportunity to train with me if they'd like to. Mm-hmm. Hopefully there'll be a time that I come close to your area soon. One that keeps coming up is Florida. They're like, hey, come on down to Florida, and I just haven't had a class host fully say let's do this, and we've got the place arranged for and all that. But perhaps next year I'll be down in Florida. You never know.
Yeah, you never know with all the gators there, right? But hey, no, that's cool. Yes, and all of these websites or all the appropriate links will be in the show notes below, because at least I can do that. It's not that difficult to tag some links and make some stuff happen, because it's the least I can do, because if my show notes don't look good, I know, but that's about it. But yeah, no, Riley, brother, I appreciate your time tonight. This has been a great conversation. And I really do appreciate your time out of your busy life and schedule to sit down with me. So I really do appreciate that.
I'm honored to have me on. And it's fun to have the tables sort of flipped on me, as far as I'm so used to being in the host seat, and it actually is a significant reduction. I feel no stress just coming on and being your guest and just having a chit chat. I suppose you probably have guests that are like, oh, what do I say on a podcast? But I feel just totally at ease to come on and not be in your spot trying to, like ask all the questions and things.
Yeah, and I try, and my best is I try to make this like feel like we're sitting at a range. We're after done shooting. We're having beer. This is what I try to make this, because I tried to be Arik Levy. I'm not Arik Levy. People don't want another Arik Levy. They want me bull crapping on the internet with people that I find enjoyable to talk to and have a meaningful conversation.
Yeah, that's great, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, I greatly appreciate it, Riley. And to the listeners, I will tell you, like always, get out and do the things. I'll see you on the next one.